question answer anyway. Of course, it's important to have that time, but I've just been asked, maybe it's a good idea to do it now, because everyone is full and still a little... yeah, that was quite clearly the first one. So let's do question answer. Please, you can start. Just a second. Yeah. I'll repeat the question, so if you don't hear it, I'll repeat it.
There is a difference between meditating with your eyes open and your eyes closed.
Okay, so the question is there a difference between meditating with your eyes open or meditating with your eyes closed? Yeah, I think there is, definitely. So it's recommended to keep your eyes open. Why? Because we have two obstacles to meditation. One is that we are scattered, and one is that we become drowsy. So it's one of those two. Now, when we close our eyes, we're more likely to become drowsy. However, when we start off meditating, we'll start counting the crumbs in front of us. We're so used to using our eye consciousness and our eyes that some people find it irritating, and initially they close their eyes. So I remember when I first started to learn about Buddhism and meditating, I closed my eyes. And at some point I realized I'm starting to feel drowsy. I start feeling sleepy. I close my eyes to go to sleep. So then I opened them. And what you try to do is like you see without seeing. It's a weird way to put it. But like, you know, when you're talking to someone, or someone talks to you, tells you an exciting story, and you're just staring into space. You don't really see anything. That kind of just looking without actually anything registering. That's the kind of that's the kind of state of mind you want to achieve. So the answer is, it's better to open your eyes, but initially you may try and close them first, or to check out both to see which one works better for you. Yes?
Yes, meditation. You said be aware of your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I understood that I'm not sure that I understood this meditation, so can you explain it?
Okay. I said while we were meditating to be aware of your awareness. And in that moment she thought she misunderstood the meditation. I'm aware that this meditation, I'm aware. I know that this meditation is hard to do. It's not easy to find the object. And so I purposely spoke a little bit in between, and I just thought that, you know, like we don't know what we have to identify, but we know we're aware. So I thought if you say be aware of your awareness, it makes it easier that that's what you're looking for. So really just, how can I say it? It's like, from a Buddhist point of view, our reality is what we perceive. So we're not really aware of the fact that what is my reality? I believe there are these things out there and I see them for what they are. But actually, I see them in a very specific way, and no one else sees them that way. So I have a very subjective experience of reality, and that reality I'm very familiar with. But I'm not familiar with that which perceives those things. And that is awareness. Now maybe the vocabulary is a little difficult. I've noticed, I gave a talk in a school and I asked them, what is the word for mindfulness in Hebrew? And I gave some word, I can't remember. I don't know whether it said shibud.
Yesterday.
No, in the high school that I taught. But one of the teachers said awareness. And I was like, no, that's not mindfulness. But I didn't say that because I thought if that word works best for them, it's fine. But actually, in English, we use 3 words to refer to mind. The word mind, the word awareness, and the word consciousness. And those are synonyms. Because in Tibetan you have also 3 words that you use synonymously, like you use them exchangeably. And so in order to be able to keep up in Tibetan, in English, you try to find, to the best of your ability, a word that is close enough and use that. So the word lo in Tibetan is awareness. Because there's some entity, we call mind, that is aware of its object. So that which is aware of its object is awareness. Awareness is an agent that is aware of an object. Consciousness is an agent that is conscious of an object. And with mind, you know, it's mind. It perceives, it experiences an object. So those three words, to me, they kind of work, but there could be a misunderstanding in terms of thinking awareness, saying be mindful of your mindfulness. But that's also okay, because if in that moment your mind is mindfulness, I mean, actually we have 5 sense consciousnesses and 1 mental consciousness. And that mental consciousness sometimes arises in the form of love, sometimes arises in the form of compassion, sometimes arises in the form of mindfulness. In other words, the mind does other things too, but one of its functions is to be mindful. So when mind arises as with one of its functions being mindful, and then you try to watch that, then you're mindful of your mindfulness. So it's really like whatever is there, whatever, and there's always consciousness, watch that. But it is a little difficult. Why? Because this difficulty, like if you observe, like let's say you're meditating and you're thinking, I'm warm, or it's too warm here, or you know, like mental consciousness reflecting upon the temperature. So this happens, it arises, and then you go, oh, be mindful. What was that mind? And you observe that mind. But the moment you observe it, it goes away, because now your attention is no longer on the temperature, it's on the mind that perceives it. So it's like a back and forth, if you like. You're mindful, it's there, you're mindful. If you can be mindful the whole time without any thoughts coming in, there's just that blankness. But it's not blankness, you're trying to focus on awareness itself, except the object is awareness, so there's no more external object, there's nothing other than awareness. So initially there's just a blankness, it seems there's nothing there. But if you look a little closer, if you check a little closer, you get in touch with that experiencing entity. Just that clear, it's like they describe it as something that is clear, that is insubstantial and clear, in the sense that anything can appear to it. I mean, I did the test with you yesterday, or ask you, or describe it to you. You can look at this tanka, right? If you look at the tanka behind me, the picture behind me, you see it very clearly with your eye consciousness. Now that's the eye consciousness having a perception of a sense object. If you close your eye and I say, think of this picture, what happens? It appears. So to every mind, something has to appear. If you want to think of your car, if I ask you, think of your car, what happens? It appears. Some representation appears. If I ask you to think about your mother, some representation appears. So if you take something to mind, there's always something appearing to it with regard to the mental consciousness. The sense consciousnesses, they can easily take in all the sensual objects. This mental consciousness cannot take in these sensual objects. It can only take in what the sense consciousnesses take in. Or if the sense consciousnesses cannot take it in because your car is not in this room, then through memory you bring it to mind. You have an image. And right there you have an object. So the mind is said to be luminous or clear because it has that ability for something to appear to the mind. In fact, it has to appear. You never, never ever think about something without something appearing. So therefore, when you don't have anything other than the mind itself, so if you try to watch the mind itself, then there's nothing separate, no separate object, and you're just getting in touch with that clarity. But we're not used to doing it, we're not used to looking for it, and that's why it's difficult. Yes?
I wanted to ask you about the awareness of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Sensory, like body feelings, I feel cold, I feel hot, I feel itchy.
Yeah.
And something more like mind,
Mm-hmm.
love, hate,
Mm-hmm.
anger, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a feeling, when I have to feel about my body feelings, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's just, but when I have to think about anger, I'm not angry now.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I think about?
Mm.
Is there no feeling? It's difficult.
It's difficult. No, the thing is, yeah. So with the sense consciousness, I agree with you. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, that's easy. Okay, it's easy to be aware, pleasant, unpleasant. But let's say it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Well, then it's neutral. That feeling is described as being a feeling of neutrality. Does that make sense? So being neutral. So right now, with your eye consciousness, you don't see something pleasant, nothing unpleasant, just neutral.
This is evaluation, but when I feel itchy or pain,
okay, then
the pain is here, I can concentrate on it.
Well,
and then I can evaluate if it's like it or don't like
yes,
it.
Yes,
I
yes.
feel the pain.
Right.
But if I don't feel anything,
yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Like with your, if I ask you to focus on your nose consciousness, okay, focus on the smell. So if you focus on your smell, actually, I'm asking you focus on the smell. But actually what your mental consciousness does, it pays attention to your nose consciousness. Now, is the feeling pleasant or unpleasant? Is it one of the two? No. So that is a neutral feeling. So we say you don't feel anything. In other words, it's called a neutral feeling. Now the same happens with your mental consciousness. So with regard to your question was, well, mentally, I don't feel good or bad. There's no feeling there. But that's a neutral feeling. It's just neutral. So that's described as a neutral feeling. And just register. So when you do the meditation, you just register neutral feeling. And that's it. Move on. A neutral feeling, no problem. A negative feeling, the problem is... well, I mean, neutral feeling as in like, I'm not unhappy, neutral, you know, it's not like totally indifferent and stuff. I'm okay, right? So neutral as in like, not pleasant, not unpleasant. So, but then when the feeling becomes pleasant, the more pleasant it gets, the more likely we are to grasp it. And when it's unpleasant, the more likely we are to be angry and some negative emotion arises. So the exercise before was like, just register what's going on. This feeling of, right now the mental consciousness is neutral. Okay, fine. But watch. What's very interesting is if then the temperature goes up, for instance. So first the body consciousness registers it's hot. If the heat becomes unpleasant, there's a registering of unpleasant. And then your mental consciousness goes, oh, why do I have to put the temperature up like that? You know, you get annoyed. Or, you know, well, initially there's a mental consciousness that registers, I'm too hot. There it is. And then that gives rise possibly to feeling annoyed or whatever. It doesn't have to be, but can. So you see, then there's already a negative, then you have a negative feeling with the mental consciousness. And that's difficult to differentiate between that and the body consciousness. So first is body consciousness, registering the heat, and then the mental consciousness that feels unhappy. Okay? And then you just check, what is it giving rise to? Does it give rise to emotions that I no longer can control? Or, if you are mindful enough, maybe change the situation. Or, you know, take off your clothes. Or whatever needs to be done. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, yes?
So, during the break, I tried to be mindful of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There was this big mess.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm asking is, what is the, how should I want to feel, or what do I want to think about during the breaks? Like,
Okay.
should my thoughts be empty, or should I think, or should I always observe, but that's a little bit exhausting?
Okay, so the question is, during the break, she was trying to be mindful, but there were so many thoughts basically there, and so there was a difficulty in terms of what to do now. Should I just observe? Should I stop thinking anything, right? Or should I just observe? But just observing seems very exhausting to be mindful the whole time.
Not exactly. Like,
Not exactly.
The question is like, what does the Dalai Lama do during his breaks?
Oh. Whoa, that's a high aim.
I'm not aiming.
No, I'm
but
kidding.
But
I'm
it's
kidding.
an aim.
No. I think it's a good thing to definitely. No. I'm kidding about you. Of course, it's a good way to see the dilemma as an example. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he's just totally absorbed into thoughts of love and care and compassion. But that's hard for us because there's still a mind going, don't forget about me, right? That's a strong one. I mean, like, hi. And so I haven't talked much about the I and so forth yet, just because it's a very complicated issue and it's very profound but very difficult to deal with. So someone like the Dalai Lama, I think he's only concerned with others. And I mean, I would find that exhausting to be there at a lunch break and only be concerned with others. You know, it's like, I don't have that habit. So that is what I think the Dalai Lama does. But that'd be great, and you know, it's something to aspire towards. But the thing is, initially, we need to just learn to relax. Without judging our thoughts, whatever's there is fine. Right? And have an openness, like a, how can I call it? It's almost like it's a curiosity. Your mind is your own laboratory. I guess if I talk to a scientist, they go, oh yeah, I get that, yeah, my laboratory. So if you're known to have that scientific tendency, that may be less tempting or less interesting, but it's basically like, what is going on? This is so interesting. We have a tendency to push things away. Big problem. To repress things. Oh, I have a negative thought. I don't want to have a negative thought. Go away, negative thought. And if you repress anything, it'll come back bigger than before. So you just need to check. It can be scary. We can actually get in touch with scary places. Our mind can be scary. And we need to learn to just accept it. Whatever is there. It's like a cloud. How scary can a cloud be? Right? I mean, these thoughts are insubstantial. They come and go. They come and go. So why do you do the meditations in this setting here in particular? To learn. They just come and go. There's nothing scary there. There's more fear of the fear than anything else. So basically, it's kind of a gentleness. Kind of like right from the beginning, whatever's there, it's fine. If it's a mess, welcome. Even the mess is great. Anything is great. Whatever's there is fine. But that state of mind, very accepting, very gentle with yourself. Then a mess, well, take it with humor. Oh, what a mess. Now that's interesting. Wonder where that comes from. Right? And then just through that thought, oftentimes the mess already settles. So you're trying to set your mind into a state that is free from grasping and free from aversion. Just whatever's there is fine. That calmness is so important. I believe personally that Buddhism went from India to Tibet because Tibetans are so calm and laid back. They're just so laid back. It just works for their mind. They don't stress themselves out. You know, when I first heard about the meditators in Dharamsala, you have these meditators up in the mountains. And so I was thinking, they probably meditate 18 hours a day. Meditating away. And I once asked one of my teachers, because I was in a place where there were lots of meditators, and they were all sitting outside, just looking at the nice view. I was like, I must have caught them at a break. You know, what a coincidence. Within 18 hours, I catch them at that one break. And I asked one of my teachers, I said, how many hours do they meditate? And he's like, an hour or two. I'm like, what? And then what do they do all day long? Nothing. Try that. Try to just do nothing. Right? To just sit and observe. We have this funny thing, we have to be productive. We have to be productive. Right? So we always have to be doing something. Because we don't do something, we're not productive. That is just the grasping, you know? Just not doing anything is totally letting go. That's really difficult. Our sense of I've not achieved something. But just watching the mind, just being with the mind, that's actually an achievement. Something we've never done, so just get to know. So many of the meditators, they're not like, they're so relaxed, they're so laid back. And they just sit very calmly and don't do anything. Just relaxing. First, just letting go. Just letting go. And then turning your attention inwards. You don't have to meditate like this, right? It's helpful, and they do that too. And over time, they lengthen the periods when they sit like that, because it makes it more conducive. Your posture has an influence on your mind. But initially, you just learn to do nothing but observe. It's just a very relaxed, like you were watching a movie, right? When there's a mess in the movie, we don't get upset. When you watch a movie, it's not like, oh my God, this guy's running really fast. You shouldn't be running so fast. You know, like, we don't judge it at all. We just watch it with a sense of like we're a little bit removed from it. We're not emotionally involved, right? At least most of the time. So likewise with our mind, without getting sucked into the story, this constant narrative, you need to be doing something, you're not very productive. You're not doing anything, there's nothing to, you know. So instead of getting drawn into that, just watch it. Ah, interesting, right? I mean, initially it scared me, in my own mind it scared me. But at some point, and you can do this at any time, you know, when you do other things, you may still roam around in your room, you know, clean. I mean, we have to do things, let's be realistic. I'm not asking you to be a meditator, but when you do things that don't need your attention, if you just pay attention to your own mind, it's actually really funny. My own mind makes me laugh. The stuff that's going on, the story that my self-grasping, my self-centeredness, what it keeps telling me, what the stories it pulls me in, it makes me laugh. You know, at least I have more fun with my own mind. Right? That I think is important to learn. So it's not about achievement. We're so trained. So we bring all this into our meditation, right? We can't help it. That's what we're trying to let go of. No expectations. Just let it go. Like you're watching a movie, just watching a scene there, you step back and you just watch. And then when you get like, okay, I need some entertainment, well, by all means, don't. You can only do this as long as you're happy. That's a very, very important idea. I cannot stress it. Because we're used to doing things that strain ourselves and make us work harder, and then we're exhausted, but we feel like we've accomplished something. With meditation, it doesn't work. You can only do it as long as you're calm and satisfied. When you push too much, at some point you'll give up. You associate meditation with suffering. Yeah, right, because you went too far, you've suffered. So, understanding why it is important and necessary, and slowly getting the benefits. So if in a lunch break you feel like you've been mindful, okay, I got enough of mindfulness, well, space out, you know? Start daydreaming, and maybe every now and then just go back and go, ah, how curious, and space out, do your thing, and ah, how curious, and that's it. That's already good enough. Okay? So you do this for 10 minutes, which is a long time, but just every now and then check and let it go, check and let it go. Just be really relaxed. Yes.
So it's kind of detachment in a way, right?
It's, yeah, a type of detachment. You're absolutely right.
So what is unclear to me is how does that come about with compassion and love?
How does detachment get combined with love and compassion?
I mean, it's a thought, right? Compassion, it's a feeling, it's an emotion.
Yes, I'm not saying compassion and love are emotions, but I'm not saying don't think. I'm not saying don't think, but be aware of what you're thinking. So detachment, usually I'm attached to I need my happiness, my family, right? It's I'm the center of the universe. Sorry. Right? That's how it feels. For all of us, we're the center of the universe. So I am the center of the universe, and everything I is most important, and then comes mine. And then everything else. Right? And dependent on how you act towards me or not, I like you or I dislike you. That's it. You're good or bad in relation. I think you're truly good or bad, but you're actually just in relation to you're good or bad. So you seem to be an absolute good or bad, but in reality, you're totally relative good or bad because it's in relation to me. Okay. And I don't see it that way. And then I hold on. You know, she's a good person. I need her. she's not a good person. I want to harm her, or I'm resentful towards her. I want to be away from her, etc. So that's grasping. Whereas love and compassion is free from grasping. It's not grasping at your happiness, it's just a sincere wish for you to be happy. And whether you're mine or not, whether I know you or not, you're just like me. There's no difference, really. Even genetically, what we have in common, there's a lot more in terms of our genetic material we have in common, the Dalai Lama talks about this, than that what we don't have in common. The differences, we focus on the differences, but they're minor. We have a mind that is very similar. We want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. And a mind that can perceive things. So in terms of the nature of your mind and my mind, it's not much difference. We're made of similar atoms, just different shapes and different collection, and that's it. And just as I want to be happy, you want to be happy. And just as I wish for myself to be happy, everyone else should have the same right, and I should wish for everyone else, and that's love. And it's just a very relaxed type of mind that is healthy while it arises, it makes you feel calm, healthy in terms of our immediate relationships, and in the long term. It really gives peace and happiness, and there's no grasping. I want you to be happy. That doesn't happen, right? When you have love towards others, your mind just cannot go like, oh, I need to be happy. It doesn't grasp like that. It is very calm and just sincerely wishes. Unless you suffer and I go, I need to do something. But again, it's no grasping. It's a determination. It's a type of courage. Right? It doesn't exaggerate. It's just there. It's strong. Okay? See, there's a difference. And we do those meditations to recognize the difference. When is my mind going, I? And when is it going, all right, others, okay. Relax. Yes?
In the second meditation, when you relax everything, I almost fell asleep.
Oh, you did? Oh, good. That's mental syncing.
I was feeling like and then I tried to, wake up myself so I could be in the meditation.
So you experienced mental syncing during the meditation. I briefly mentioned this yesterday, and I'll just mention it now again. The main obstacles we face is either being too scattered and disrupted, or experiencing dullness or mental syncing. So that is described like, it's really funny because the second one is trickier. Because initially you feel, oh, I'm so focused. I'm really focused. Because you don't have the energy to think of anything else. So maybe you're still left with the breathing, but it's like, oh, am I breathing? And that's just before you fall asleep. So, well, welcome to your mental syncing. There you found the second. What can you do? What can you do? What can you do in such a situation? Well, you go, wait a minute. Okay, so alertness. Your alertness, the level of your alertness has gone down. Okay, remember, attentiveness, careful. Attentiveness is very clear. It brings clarity. The stronger your attentiveness, so the stronger the clarity of your object of meditation. And so if you fall asleep, your alertness is gone. So introspection, very good. You definitely had introspection there because now you can talk about it. You were aware of it. So that was the introspection. And then you remind yourself, I need clarity. Come on, clarity, come back, right? And then your alertness comes back. Of course, maybe you just need to sleep. I mean, of course, there's a time when you're just really exhausted. That'll be a different time, so you may have to get up, maybe lie down, sleep, or you just need to get some fresh air or whatever. But you can, if it's not too overwhelming, just get your alertness back. It's mindfulness, the recollection, be alert, be alert. And then take a few deep breaths, and there it is back, usually.
Or try to go to sleep while you meditate. I never could achieve this.
Or try to fall asleep.
And then when I catch myself, I say, okay, go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay, be comfortable. Thank you very much. Fall asleep.
Dream yoga.
Dream yoga. Well, actually, the great meditators, like the yogis in the Tibetan tradition, they never lie down. They're always in that meditative, so they don't. Just one of my classmates, he's just gone into a 3-year retreat. So got rid of his bed or put it in a different room, and he had a meditation box made where you just sit in a little square with a, something to lean, and you stretch your legs, of course, but not for sleeping. So because you meditate so much, your mind is much subtler, and you don't need sleep as much. So you only sleep a few hours. You don't need that much sleep, and you're rested just with a few hours, and you get used to being in this position all the time. But I think for us, that's a little bit early. And so I think it's a good suggestion. You want to sleep? Go asleep. And then you go like, your body goes like, no way. And you wake up again. That would possibly also be, that would be a way to deal with it. Anything to bring your clarity back. Yes?
I have a question about tough compassion.
Tough compassion, yes?
I find that when I try to do that, it always comes with anger because I don't want to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I feel that the situation can be solved in a calm way.
Yes. Okay, so her question is regarding tough compassion. Every time she tries that, she starts feeling herself getting angry, and she doesn't like tough compassion because she feels it's better to be in this situation, or deal with the situation in a gentle way. That's a very important question. But just one quick question I have. Do you have children?
No.
All right. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews. Can you imagine times where like being diplomatic and stuff just won't work?
Yes, I work with children.
You work with children.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have to apply sometimes tough compassion? Like no?
Yes, for children.
Must be.
Yeah, I don't work about with children, but I see it with the staff, which is my age and older.
Yeah.
So that is the problem, not with the children.
Okay. Well, one of my teachers, again, this great meditator I spoke about, I remember years ago, he came to a question and answer session, and someone said, he asked, is it okay to criticize people? Is it okay to be critical of someone? And so his response was, be careful. In the sense, he's saying that we are used to criticizing someone out of anger. We have that habit. So when we start criticizing, we may not be able to help it, but anger may come in. And then the whole thing, the other person picks up on the anger, the whole criticism becomes extreme, and it's not going to be constructive. So that was a very good lesson for me, to make sure if I want to be forceful, I have to make sure it is not the type of forceful that would speak out of my anger. Okay? So this is difficult. This is a difficult thing to do, to apply tough compassion. But tough compassion doesn't mean like, it could just be a little bit like, no, I don't agree. That's not super gentle, right? No, I don't think so. That's already being a little bit assertive. Maybe assertive in your case, because it also depends on each and everyone's mentality, right? So I would agree with you. This is also not my thing. I'd rather not be like that. I can't. I don't know, So in my case, I would say, I would say, no, I don't agree, and I can make a point, but it's more assertive than tough, maybe. But I guess for other people, if you have already a mentality such as, then to learn to use that mentality, but have a compassion as the driving force. And just be really careful not to turn it into aggression. For those of us who are gentle, make sure you don't try to please the other person. Because sometimes we just want the other person to be pleased, we don't want to face problems and difficulties, and don't want to let them just agree with them, let's just agree with them. That's also a problem. That's also an issue. So to be truthful to yourself, if the situation is appropriate, speak the truth, but you can say it in a gentle way when it feels appropriate, and if it's necessary, in an assertive way. And if there's someone, just imagine there's someone attacking another person, and you can stop this person, have pepper spray or something. What are you going to do? You see someone attacking another person, you use pepper spray. That's tough compassion. I don't want, like, see, you're just witnessing that, right? One person, you don't want this first person to be killed, and you don't want the second person to be killed, neither. So if you could stop the whole event so no one gets hurt. I was thinking, how could I do this? What would I do? Well, maybe pepper spray would be a good thing, you know? Maybe I'm naive about this, but I don't know if that was a solution. That's tough compassion. If you think, I don't want the attacker, I don't want the victim, I don't want anyone to get killed. Okay, then don't spray the victim. Spray them, right? Just like maybe a silly example, but there are things where we can maybe do something, like, you know, maybe grab someone and hold them, and, you know, or maybe punch them unconscious, right? Or shoot them in the knee. Seriously. I'm sorry, I don't know what you could do, but the point is to stop someone with this and you don't hate that person. It's not out of hatred, but you're assertive in that moment. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, I need to think
Right?
about it.
But in the end, what I also said before is we need discernment. We need to also keep thinking, what would be the best situation for most people involved, right? I mean, we make mistakes and we will hurt people. We hurt living beings when we walk from our room or when we walk from the car park to here, because there may be insects on the floor and we walk over them. I mean, we do harm unintentionally, but it's just life.
Welcome to samsara.
It's samsara, it's life, yeah. So, therefore, I think to consider short-term harm, long-term benefit. Do it. Short-term benefit, long-term harm, don't do it. Short-term benefit, long-term benefit, do it, obviously, right? If you take that as a kind of guiding line, and also, you know, if maybe one person gets harmed, but a lot of people benefit, again, it's a good thing to do. See what I'm saying? So, and if you can be the one that steps back and maybe makes the sacrifice of helping others, wonderful, as long as we can do it. So use discernment and compassion. Those two are your guiding lines. Yeah? Okay. Yes, please.
You were saying before that punishments are necessary. Could you explain that?
I said before, punishment is necessary. I think I said punishment can be necessary. It depends, again, on the situation. To give you an example, someone who's always stealing from other people, right? So they get into that habit, and if they get away with it, they may just continue stealing from others. So who does it harm? The person who steals, it harms him or her, especially from a Buddhist point of view, where everything is based on the principle of karma. Whatever you give out, it comes back to you. Okay? Now, we don't know whether that's true, but we also don't know whether that's untrue. So it's much safer to just act as if it was true. You know, it just gives you the benefit. So, if it's true that things come back to you, then it could also come back to that person. So I want this person to stop him or herself from harming him or herself. And of course, all the potential victims. So what do? I punish them. If they have to pay a huge fine, or they're possibly in prison because of that, that may deter them, hopefully deter them from stealing again once they have the freedom to do so again, or at least while they're in prison, they can't do it. Yeah? So it's really not a matter of punishment. Yeah, I want that person to be suffering in prison. Here they go, they took my TV, now they should go to prison for 10 years, whatever. Right? That would be an extreme response. But protect him or herself from him or herself and also others. In that way, it's compassionate. Because right now, there's nothing else. You can't take them to the side and say, please stop stealing. And they're like, okay, it's not going to happen. Right? Okay. Does that make sense?
So what happens to the person that is being punished? Is he really, able to transform? I can see like my kids, when I punish them, I don't think it's very helpful. They just get more angry to do it again.
What do you think is helpful?
Like a timeout or giving a good example. That's that's a good one.
Yes, I mean, definitely giving a good example. That's why, you know, we follow someone like the Dalai Lama, because he's such a great example. So he's definitely a qualified teacher because he's a great example. So definitely, we have to be a good example. But, I mean, I'm sure there are situations sometimes when you say, now's enough. Now's enough, now's enough, you stop, sit in the corner, or I don't know what you do. And that's a kind of punishment, or you're like, just kind of like, no, and like not being friendly and sweet, that's a kind of punishment. I'm not saying beating them or, you know, something extreme, but like a kind of like, that's not all right. No, that's already a punishment, because they want to see you smile and be gentle. Yeah. Yes?
I want to understand a little bit more about the nature of compassion.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. For example, I want to have a promotion. And there's another 10 persons that want to have the same promotion like me, and they have the same skill.
Yeah.
If I get a promotion, probably they will have suffering.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to cause suffering in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it make sense?
Can you not ask me like easy examples? Right away, really tough example. Okay, 10 people, all want a promotion, all are equally qualified, all have equally the right to be promoted, and if I get promoted, then those 10 people will suffer. Okay, what am I going to do? If I let go, then there's still, because only one will get it, so there's still 10 will still suffer. I have to convince 9 of them not to want the promotion.
If I don't take it as
okay, so if it's 10 altogether, then it's 9. Okay, so I have to.
It could be 1, it could be 2, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. So let's take it 9. Okay, so I have to convince 8 of them to give the promotion to 1. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, that's difficult. I mean, suffer means like, again, like, suffering doesn't necessarily, to avoid someone not getting a promotion, it's not necessarily, like for instance, as a dentist, okay, how can you be a compassionate dentist if someone comes with a rotten tooth? Oh, go home. Right? I mean, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is a counterexample that, I'm just saying sometimes what we think people really give happiness doesn't necessarily give them. Here we're talking about a different type of happiness, actually, if possible, to avoid problems and difficulties, but also avoid, not necessarily support them in getting like happiness that you get from taking drugs. Okay? So that would also, when we say give people happiness, it doesn't necessarily mean meaningless happiness. So first of all, just that. So, but your promotion is not something that is meaningless. I don't think that's a meaningless type of happiness. And I guess we cannot make a decision for others, but you could maybe look at the family situation. Who of them has more of a financial problem versus myself? Is my financial situation worse than theirs? So let's say all of them have 8 children and I'm the only one with 1. And they have a mortgage and so forth. Then I could go, okay, I'm actually all right. I'm financially okay. This other person, so to really become aware of the situation of the other person and see who will have the greatest disadvantage and possibly make a decision according to that. Of course, you don't know what the other 9 people or 8 people are going to do, but at least to step back and say, no. If any of them deserves it, it may be Moshe. Back to Moshe. So one of them may be Moshe. So Moshe is the guy who's got most children. He's got a huge mortgage and his wife is sick. So you could speak out and say, I'll let go of it. I'm okay. My wife is fine. I only have 1 kid. I have some inheritance and so forth. And I would suggest Moshe gets it for this and this reason. Right?
Okay, this is Daisy. If all of them in the same level.